Hello and welcome to Sankofa Summer School. We're about halfway through this year's session, and I am so excited. If you're watching the replay, what I'm referring to is the series of classes that we have had beginning the last week of July and extending through the end of next week, classes that we're offering on a variety of topics. You can go to SankofaSummerSchool.com and learn more about what it is that we are doing here. But tonight, I'm going to be introducing you to someone amazing. Hold on, let me just make sure we're streaming everywhere. Yes, okay, great. All right, we're good. We're actually good. So we have had some technical difficulties, and I just want to make sure that everything is all right. All right. So tonight, we have a very special class today. And it's, I was thinking a lot about what I wanted us to focus on this year for Sankofa Summer School. And some of it is really like this idea of wellness, right? Wellness for our people has been resonating with me a great deal. And so I started thinking about, well, what goes into wellness? And people's faith and spirituality are really important parts of that. And I wanted to make sure that we were covering different aspects of the African diaspora and our beliefs and our faiths and things like that. So I brought on someone she sent me a really good proposal for a class, but I'm going to read her bio and then I'm going to introduce her and bring her to the stage. Faheemah Salahud-Din Floyd is a Black American and Afro-Trinidadian multi-creative spiritualist, community organizer, and writer. Born in California, she founded Ja House Publishing to support Black self-published authors. Faheemah is deeply committed to re-indigenizing her community, starting with herself first. She believes that books are a powerful weapon in the fight for freedom. When asked what her genre is, she will simply say Black people, because her stories shed light on the beauty and vastness of the Black experience. Through her writing, she examines the intersections of race, identity, gender, and the collective journey towards authenticity. As a community organizer and spiritualist, she works with her family and village to build a new world. Her diverse roles include author, ghostwriter, copywriter, book editor, graphic designer, website developer, herbalist, and doula. Led by her ancestors, she integrates these gifts to create unique offerings that are the medicine for her people. She is dedicated to helping others get free, approaching every project with authenticity and a spiritually rooted perspective, because everything is spiritual. So, she's wearing multiple hats. And, I've had the pleasure of following her for a bit on social media. And I think that the way that she cultivates community is really, really invigorating. And I think you all are going to enjoy her. So I'm going to bring the sister to the stage. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
We are so excited to have you today. I know you are about to bring the heat. So I'm going to leave and I'm going to let you do your thing. All right?
Okay. Peace. Thank you, everyone, for coming. My name is Faheemah Salahud-Din Floyd, and this is I Am Because We Are, Cultivating Ancestral Connections. So let me get started. This is my first time on StreamYard, so bear with me as I get this slideshow going. I originally planned to share a little bit about who I was with the class, but Dr. Taylor did such an excellent job. We're going to slide right past this and move on to the basis of my teaching. As someone who is committed to re-indigenizing my life, I teach from an Afrocentric framework. It's who I am, it's how I live, it's what I write, so naturally it's also what I teach. This is what brought me to Sankofa Summer School, and I am proud to be teaching in a space that centers Black people. Dr. Molefi K. Asante developed Afrocentricity as a theoretical framework in the 1980s. Since then, brilliant scholars have explained the Afrocentric paradigm, giving us a template to guide our educational praxis. Simply put, being Afrocentric means centering Africana people in their own narratives and making them the subjects and not the objects of other people's stories. For most of us, our learning experiences have been primarily Eurocentric. We learned that European ways of knowing and being are the best and universally applicable. Afrocentricity challenges this notion of European white supremacy and encourages us to center ourselves as Africana people first and foremost. We take this approach because it is empowering and because it is true. So throughout this class, you will hear me refer to us as both Africana people as well as Black people. It's worth mentioning that I use these terminologies interchangeably as a person of the diaspora. So if you hear me say Black, if you hear me say Africana, I'm still talking about all of us. I'm still talking about the Black family. So let's get into this class. In this class, we're going to cover what ancestor reverence is, its historical and cultural importance, the role of self-love when connecting with our ancestors, how to build an ancestor altar, and how to identify messages from our ancestors. Ancestor reverence is the act of honoring, loving, and caring for your dead family members and loved ones. It is rooted in the understanding that energy never dies. So essentially, we never truly die. When our spirits leave our bodies, they become an empty shell, but we live on in the spirit world. And if we are of good character, we can be elevated to the role of ancestor. Unlike what they show you on television, everyone who dies does not become an ancestor. It is a role that is reserved for those of good character whose ashe has completed its mission. Our ashe is our spiritual energy, and it is also our life force. When you become an ancestor, your role becomes that of a guardian who protects those who are in your care, which traditionally is your family. You assist them with their life affairs, their spiritual affairs, while helping them to fulfill their destiny. Each of us has our own destiny, and it is our journey and our work here on earth to walk the path of that destiny and fulfill it, and our ancestors assist us with that. As living people, it is our responsibility to care for our ancestors. We say their names, we use candles to light their way, and we offer them water, food, and things that they love so that their energy is fed. We do this not just because we love them, but also because every spiritual transaction must be balanced. So if they are working for us on the other side, we owe them an offering. Essentially, everything in nature requires an offering. If you want your body to work, you have to feed it. You have to give it water. You have to let it rest. If you want healthy teeth, you have to brush them. If you don't want to be funky, you take a bath, right? So what we want to understand is within a spiritual context, we approach our ancestors, spirit guides, and any deity from, any tradition that you practice with the same energy. We want to have balanced transactions when we are dealing with our ancestors. There are ancestors that are a part of your immediate familial lineage, meaning they are your blood relatives. And then there are ancestors who we honor because they are Black and we're Black. For instance, I honor Zora Neale Hurston, James Baldwin, among other elders, even though they are not my blood relatives. We also revere our chosen family. Many of us within the United States and abroad have chosen family who not only matter to us, but in many cases, they are the people who care for us when our family doesn't care for us, right? Depending on whatever relationships we have with our blood family. So we also can reverence and take care of our chosen family when they transition as well. There is also spiritual protocol for that. Through ancestor reverence, though ancestor reverence is the root of all Africana spirituality, you don't have to belong to a spiritual tradition or religion to honor your ancestors. That is a misconception that is often shared, but I wanted to clarify that point because there are people who are not a part of a spiritual tradition, who are not a part of any religious practice, but it is still very much your right as a Black person, as an Africana person, to reverence your ancestors. So it's our birthright to connect with our people. Ancestor reverence has kept Black people in America alive, literally and figuratively. It has given us a sense of purpose, identity, culture, direction, guidance, and community in our most trying times. Ancestor veneration has been found in some shape or form in every uprising, enslaved revolt, and liberation movement in our history. It is the cord that ties us from Africa to America. And while it shows up differently depending on each belief and culture and spiritual practice, the energy is always the same. We are here to honor, respect, love, and take care of those who came before us, because they take care of us as well. Ancestor reverence is intentionally and unintentionally a part of our culture here in the United States. A lot of people think that they don't practice ancestor reverence, but you actually do. If you've ever poured out liquor for a dead homie, that's ancestor reverence. If you ever brought the flowers that your grandmother liked, that's ancestor reverence. If you ever used any of your mother's recipes on her birthday or Mother's Day, or just to remember her, that's ancestor reverence. If you've kept anything from your father, like his tool belt, that's all ancestor reverence. So as you see, we practice ancestor reverence culturally as Black people here in the United States and abroad. We just don't always have the language or even the cultural knowledge to know that that's what we're doing, because those things were taken from us. So giving honor to your people does not involve pomp and circumstance. It can, but it doesn't have to. It can be as simple as saying their name or wearing a color that you know they loved. Ancestor reverence is an essential part of who we are. And when we deny ourselves this practice, we are cutting off a piece of our heart, because who we come from informs us on who we are and where we need to go and where we are going. So knowing your people is an essential part of living a full life and a healthy life. Honoring our ancestors is also an act of self-love. As Black people, our community often speaks about ancestral trauma and curses, but not many people speak about ancestral gifts. Ancestral gifts are anything that you have been given by your blood family, and essentially it can be anything small or big. Some ancestral gifts can be your grandfather's eyes. If you laugh like your auntie, that's an ancestral gift. If you have a green thumb and you find out that your great cousin was a master herbalist, that is also an ancestral gift. Other types of ancestral gifts can include spiritual gifts. Some people are seers. Some people see things in dreams. These are all things that can be passed down to us from our ancestors. And so if you have anything like this, I would recommend searching your family lineage or talking to an elder to see what the people in your family did, because you never know what you are exploring or what you are discovering about yourself could be directly connected to someone who has transitioned and died in your family, and their history and their knowledge and what they did can inform you on how to handle yourself and what your gifts entail. And so when we focus on learning more about our people, we focus on learning more about ourselves. They inherently go together because we are them and they are us, right? So what we want to understand is that our ancestors left us more than trauma. And as we come home to ourselves, it is imperative that we begin to uplift the things that they left us that are of good. Ancestral gifts are a tool that can be used to get to know yourself better, because learning your family's background helps you to better align with yourself. The same way traumas inform our current beliefs, behaviors, and capacity, our ancestral gifts do the same. Ancestor reverence has been belittled and misrepresented for many years. White supremacy has done a number on our people. We know that. Through its religions, ideologies, and forced dogma, it has led many Black people astray. It has taught us that venerating our ancestors is evil and devil worship. They've done this because they know that if we are connected to our bloodline, we will win. And if we aren't connected to our bloodline, we will fail, because it is only through the help of our bloodline that we will reach our destinies. That is just the nature of life. Everything needs a guide. If you've never been anywhere before, you need a map. When you get in a car and you're in a new city, you use a GPS system. Your ancestors are your internal GPS system. They assist you and guide you throughout life. Even though many of us don't believe in ancestor reverence, it's still growing interest amongst the youth and those who want to unlearn the lies of white supremacy. It is my hope that more Black people return to ancestor reverence as a spiritual and cultural practice. And that's why I teach this class. It is an entry-level understanding of ancestor reverence, and it is something that will assist you on your journey. Though it does not include everything you need to know about venerating ancestors, it is a very good starting point. And so I hope you see it as such as we continue on together. Ancestor shrines, also known as ancestor altars, are a visitor center for your ancestors. It is the place they go to meet you when you need to talk to them. It is the place where you feed them and leave their offerings. Building an ancestor altar is the first step in developing a relationship with your ancestors. As I mentioned earlier, your ancestors are your army, and they do work for you in the spiritual world. Keep that in mind when preparing your altar, because you want to have as many soldiers of good character on your side. Every day we are experiencing spiritual warfare. And in order for us to win, we have to have people fighting alongside us. No one wins a war on their own. So when you think of your ancestor altar, I want you to think of it as assembling your squad for the fight ahead. And when you assemble your squad, you want to get people who you know are going to go to bat for you. So that brings us into understanding the ways in which we select people for our ancestor altar, right? But before we get into that, I'd like to begin by emphasizing that there are multiple ways to construct an ancestor altar, which can vary according to your spiritual traditions and cultural beliefs. Given the diversity of Africana spirituality and traditions, the design of ancestor altars can differ significantly based on varied belief systems. So in this class, recognizing that we all come from different spiritual backgrounds, I will guide you through a general approach to setting up your ancestor altar. This method is not bound to any specific spiritual beliefs, and it allows me to respect and honor your unique belief systems while providing essentials that are needed to start your journey. So again, if you have a spiritual tradition, please set up your ancestor altar based off of your spiritual tradition. If you are a person who has a cultural tradition that sets up spiritual tools such as ancestor altars, please feel free to set it up the way your elders and your people have taught you. What I'm going to go over is just a general way for us to set it up that has no ties to any spiritual tradition. So let's get into it. An ancestor altar can be set up inside of your home, on the floor, a table, a bookshelf, a TV tray, a dresser, your closet, etc. You can set up an ancestor altar basically anywhere. The most important thing is to maintain your altar and spend time with your ancestors daily once you set it up. So don't get, what am I wanting to say? Don't get caught up on the details, okay? Just pick a spot in your home and set up your ancestor altar. Before building your ancestor altar, you need to assemble your people. Choose ancestors of good character. Good character is defined as people who lived with integrity, people who were honest and fair. They are people who seek to do right and treat others well. Please do not confuse good character with the ideal of morality. We are not here to judge or justify morals. We are speaking to the character of the human because morals vary depending on belief systems. So I just want to emphasize that we are speaking of character, okay? So when you think of your family members, think of those who had integrity and treated others well. And these are the people who we want fighting for us on the other side. Make sure that you choose blood relatives first. Blood relatives and chosen family should not be on the same altar. It's okay to have an altar for chosen family. I have one, but you have to separate it from your altar for your bloodline, okay? So if you are a person who has chosen family that has transitioned, you can set them up an altar. Just make sure you keep it separate. And also, if you know your blood relatives, it is proper protocol and spiritual hygiene to set up your bloodline first. So set your ancestor altar up first with your ancestors, and then set the other altar up with your chosen family who, you know, also look out for you and take care of you. Collect their pictures. Select photos of your ancestors that resonate with you. They don't need to be recent photos. Choose any image that brings fond memories of them, okay? These can be in black and white, or they can be in color. Ensure that the photos do not include anyone who is still living. This is a very important point. A lot of times people want to put pictures up on their ancestor altar that have a living family member. That is not a good look. You should not do that, simply because you should not put people up who are living on a altar that is for the dead. That's simply put. That's the only reason I have to tell you that. But if you don't have photos of your ancestors, but you know their names, you can write their names on a piece of white unlined paper. So you can get copy paper, write their name, and that can be used on your ancestor altar. Though it is best to have pictures if you can get pictures. So talk to the elders in your family. If you know your parents, talk to your parents. Try to get as many photographs as you can. And if not, there's still ways to get around it. So don't worry, okay? For ancestors that you do not know personally, as I mentioned, not all of us have relationships with our blood family, right? So some of us are adopted, estranged, or simply lack the information about all of our relatives. But that doesn't have to prevent you from reaching out and connecting with your ancestors. To include all your ancestors, use a white unlined piece of paper and write the following phrase: for all of my ancestors of good character that I did not name. That's it. That's all you need. So if you don't know your ancestors, that's all you need to put on a piece of paper. For all of my ancestors of good character that I did not name. And it will work like a bat signal, and it will call them in, okay? So don't worry if you're adopted or you're estranged or people in your family don't know anything about, you know, the elders that came before y'all. That's okay. Just do this and it will help you get started, okay? This practice ensures that all family members, whether unknown due to generational distance or adoption, are acknowledged, honored, and helping to cover all bases, all right? So the goal here is to call on as many family members of good character as possible so you can begin to build a relationship with your people. The supplies you will need for your ancestor altar. 1 8-ounce glass that can be used for drinking water, okay? Picture frames to put on your ancestors' altar. The picture frames will have either the pictures or the written names in them. Whatever number of ancestors you have, get 1 extra. So if you have 5 ancestors, get 6 picture frames, okay? Get 1 clear shot glass because there will be alcohol on the altar. Get 1 battery-powered electric candle because there needs to be light on the altar. Any items you knew your ancestors liked. If they were a smoker, get them some cigarettes. If they liked books, get them the books that they liked. If they liked flowers, get the flowers. One of my great-grandfather, he liked to work out. So I got him a bunch of little dumbbells. And there's just a bunch of little dumbbells and workout, you know, tools, I guess. I got them online. They're like cute little trinkets. I put those next to his name on the ancestor altar. I didn't know him, but my mother knew that he liked to work out. So I got that for him. So these are examples of little things that you can do. If your ancestor had a favorite book, put the book up there. All of these things are not only more than acceptable, they're actually really nice because it makes your ancestors feel like they're at home, because they are. Your altar is their new home. Well, in your home anyway. So place a copy of your ancestors' holy book on your altar. Okay. Now, this is where people can get in their feelings, but the truth is, your ancestor altar is not about your personal spiritual belief system. It is about your ancestors' belief system. Okay. So if your ancestors were Christian, put a Bible on your altar. If your ancestors were Muslim, put a Quran on your altar. The key here is to remember that it's about them and not you. You are venerating them by doing the things that they liked. So if your granny loved Jesus, let your granny have Jesus. It don't take nothing off you to let your granny have Jesus. If your granny liked gospel music, play gospel music for your granny when you go sit at the ancestor altar. Part of reconnecting with our people is respecting them and respecting their choices and respecting the ways in which they chose to live. And this is one of the ways we do that, okay? Flowers. It's important to have something living on your altar, and flowers are a great choice. You can also have a plant next to your ancestor altar. That's perfectly fine as well. Get flowers that you knew your family liked. And if you don't know the flowers that your family like, get flowers that you feel drawn to. When you go to the store, let your intuition guide you, okay? Get a vase for your flowers. And if you're putting your altar on a table, dresser, or TV chair, you will need to lay a white cloth down before placing your glasses and your pictures on the altar. So get a white piece of cloth. It can be a shawl, it could be a scarf, or if you don't want to do that, you can just buy a white table. So that's something to bear in mind if you don't want your ancestor altar on the floor. If you want it on the floor, you can just place your items on the floor directly. But if you want it on a table or a TV tray or an end table, make sure if it's not a white table that you get a white cloth to place down on the table first, okay? You'll need one white glass plate for your food offerings. You'll need one white glass bowl for your food offerings. If your family drinks alcohol, get the alcohol that they would like. My uncle likes Hennessy. I get my uncle Hennessy. I have another uncle that likes Crown Royal. I get that uncle Crown Royal. You know, do for them what they would want done. And if your family are not people who drank or you don't know what they want, just get rum. It's okay. You could just get rum, put it in the shot glass, put it on the altar, okay? And finally, get whatever else you feel called to get. Trust your instincts. I'm giving you the basics. If you want to add a little razzle dazzle, add a little razzle dazzle. If it's not on this list, that's okay. That's not a problem, okay? So just make sure that you are covering the basics, and then whatever else you feel drawn to, feel free to do it up. Here are some directions for setting up your ancestor altar. If you're setting up your ancestor altar on a table, lay down the white cloth first. If you are setting your ancestor up on the floor, clean the space where your ancestor altar will be. If you own Florida water or any sort of spiritual cleaning supplies that are specific to your spiritual tradition, feel free to use those to clean off the surface, okay? Put the pictures or the written names of your ancestors into the picture frames and assemble them on the altar. Again, if your spiritual tradition has a certain amount of glasses that need to be used or a certain formation, feel free to do whatever your tradition does. But if not, feel free to use the information that I'm giving you. Fill your 8-ounce glass with water and place it near your pictures. Do not use sparkling water. It's okay to use tap water, purified water, or spring water, but no sparkling water, because sparkling water has bubbles, and that can get confusing because when spirits are present, bubbles show up in water. So if you use sparkling water, there's always bubbles in the water. So it can be confusing, and it will make you think the spirits are present when they're not. And so it's important to use tap water, purified water, or spring water, because you need to know when your people start showing up, and you won't if you use sparkling water. Get your shot glass, put the alcohol in it, place it on the altar near the picture frames. Put your ancestors' holy book next to the shot glass. Put your flowers in the vase. Set them up on the altar in a way that feels natural for you, okay? Again, I'm giving you basics, but if you start to set up your altar and you want to do something a little different than what I'm saying, trust that and let that guide you, okay? Set up the other items you have on your altar and let your intuition guide you. If you bought specific things for specific ancestors, set those things directly in front of that ancestor's picture frame. So that way they know what's theirs, okay? How to care for your ancestor altar. Part of caring for your ancestor altar is giving them offerings of food, water, alcohol, and light. That's why you have water and alcohol on your altar, along with an electric candle. You will also cook for your ancestors as shown as a show of love and care. Cook foods that you know your ancestors like to eat. If they eat pork, cook them pork, okay? I know a lot of us don't eat pork. I was born Muslim. I do not eat pork. But guess who cooks pork for their ancestors? Me, because my ancestors were Christian and they loved pork. So I cooked them pork and I put it on the altar. I just don't eat it. And so again, this is about them and not you. It doesn't matter what you don't know what your ancestors ate. Cook something that you feel drawn to. Again, this is something that you need to allow your intuition to guide you on. It's okay to mix it up, and there's no wrong way of doing this, okay? So if you feel like making them a parfait, make them a parfait. If you want to make them a 3-course meal, do that. Whatever you feel, do. But cooked food is best, okay? So after you prepare your food, get your white bowl or your white plate, put food on it, and sit it on your ancestor altar. First, then you feed your family. It's important to remember that when cooking for the ancestors, they're fed first. Then the family eats. That's just spiritual protocol because we want to give honor and reverence to them first, okay? Keep your water clean by changing it often and make sure you're also washing your glass. If the water in your glass becomes cloudy or dirty quickly, change the water more frequently. Take it as a sign. If it starts to get dirty quick, then that means that you're doing something right because your ancestors are being fed by the energy of that water. So then all that means is that you need to clean more often. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's part of your spiritual upkeep, okay? You do not have to keep a candle on all day. You can turn off your electric candles at night, but never leave your ancestors in the dark under any circumstances. They have to always be in the light, okay? Use your best judgment with this. So for instance, I am sitting in my office, which is also my ancestor room. During the day, I do not have my electric candle on because there's sunlight coming through this window right here. But when it starts to get darker and I can tell that the sun is about to go down, I turn my electric candle on because I do not want my ancestors to be in the dark. So use your discretion, use your judgment, but just make sure that you have your candle turned on before nighttime, okay? If you can, set your ancestor altar up someplace in your home other than your room because you cannot have sex or be naked in front of your ancestor altar. If you can't set it up in another room, make sure to put a scarf or a towel over your altar when you're going to have sex or when you need to change your clothes. This is an act of respect, and it's not debatable. Like every tradition will tell you this. Just make sure you cover up your altar when you're going to get naked, whether it's naked for changing or naked for sexing. Either way, just make sure you cover it up. Read your ancestors their holy books. A lot of times, this is how they give you messages. This is how they get to know you. This is how you build a rapport and a level of comfort with them, okay? So, again, whatever their holy book was, put it on the altar and read it with them. And allow the words to permeate because sometimes our ancestors will give us messages through these books. So it may not be your belief system, but it could be theirs. And it is theirs. So honor it and allow them to speak to you through it, okay? Change your flowers often. If one of your ancestors liked a specific flower or plant, rotate it with the different flowers on your altar. You can also get a plant that you sit next to your altar and you can use it as an ancestor plant. So when you change the water. Instead of pouring the water out, you can pour it into the plant, and then it becomes your ancestor plant. I've done that before. I had a plant that was dying. I turned it into an ancestor plant, and that thing grew so big. It was beautiful. It died when I moved back to California from Atlanta. But before I took it in my car on that journey, that plant lived for so long. It was so nice. So use your ancestor water to water your plants and turn those plants into ancestor plants, okay? If there's bubbles in your ancestors' glass, it means your ancestors are present. It means spirits are present. That's why we don't use sparkling water. Again, don't be naked in front of your altar. Keep your altar covered. Keep your flowers fresh. And when you change your water, again, pour it into the plant, okay? Sometimes when I get to talking, I get ahead of myself. So if I've already covered this, forgive me. We're going to keep it moving. Allow your intuition to guide you on how often to cook your ancestors' food. There's no rule about it, so it's your choice. Keep your food offering on your altar for one day, then discard it in the trash, wash the dishes, store the dish, use the dish for later. Do not use your ancestor dishes to eat off of. That is their dishes. Make sure you have stuff that is for you and stuff that is for them. You could go to the dollar store and get a little glass bowl, little glass plate, put it to the side in your cabinet, and just make sure that everybody knows that it's for your ancestors, okay? Remember, you are building a relationship with your ancestors. Just like in any relationship, you have to talk to your people and get to know them. It's helpful to sit with your ancestors every day and tell them about your day. I pray that this is the beginning of a beautiful relationship for you. I sit with my ancestors every morning. I sometimes don't even have anything to talk about. I just ramble. I literally talk to them like they're my homies. And that has helped me to develop a real relationship with them, because I don't want to just go to them when I need something. That's transactional. You don't want to be transactional with your people. So start creating a practice of filling them in on your life and talking about things with them the way you would with your grandma, your mother, whomever else in your life that is an elder, okay? Receiving ancestral messages. As you build your relationship with your ancestors, they will begin to talk to you. Depending on your spiritual gifts, the messages may show up in various ways. Here are some of the most common ways ancestor messages show up. Meditation. Meditation serves as a direct channel to the spiritual realm, offering a quiet space to receive guidance. By entering a meditative state, individuals can focus their minds and open their hearts to receive messages from their ancestors. This might involve visualizing a meeting place or using specific questions to invite communication. The key here is to remain patient, as messages can be subtle. In my temple, we often say that spirit is Blue's Clues, meaning spirit will give you messages that sometimes you don't understand. It's okay, write it down, because it may come to pass tomorrow. It may come to pass 5 years from now. There was a message that was given to me in 2020 that just came to pass 2 weeks ago. And because I wrote it down, when it happened, I was able to go back and look at my notes and remember that this was said to me. So it is imperative that you're keeping notes as you are on this journey, because it will help you remember things later. Dreams. Dreams are also a very common way that people receive messages. To receive and understand these messages through dreams, it is helpful to keep a dream journal. Writing down dreams upon waking up captures the details. What you want to remember here is when you are in a dream state, you are not 100% in this physical world. You are in the spiritual world, right? So when you wake up, you are in a space, a liminal space between there and here. So you want to write down what you saw and what you heard immediately, because the more you get grounded physically here, the less you are there. And by there, I mean the spiritual world. So you'll begin to forget. So I keep a dream journal next to my bed. I'm a seer. That's one of my gifts. And I've always been a seer since I was a little girl. And one of the ways in which my ancestors and spirit guides speak to me is in dreams. And so I keep a dream journal next to my bed, because if I don't write down what I saw the moment I wake up, in about 10 minutes, I'm going to forget it. And so just bear in mind that dreams are one of the easiest ways for your people to come visit you. So just make sure when you wake up, you write down what you saw, and don't judge yourself if you don't always understand what you received the first time, okay? Because sometimes you get pieces of a puzzle and it comes together as a full puzzle later. Signs and symbols. Your ancestors might also start to communicate to you through signs and symbols found in everyday life. These can be as simple as finding objects in unusual places, encountering certain animals repeatedly, or experiencing the same type of situation multiple times. Recognizing and understanding synchronicities and signs often requires an awareness of context and an openness to interpretation. That's a really nice way of saying if you are a person who doesn't believe, you need to open your heart. You need to open your mind. You need to open yourself up to this, okay? If you are for real going to do this, then you need to open yourself up to the understanding that we as living people are not alone, and that there are spirits that walk among us, and those spirits have messages for us, and many of them love us and want to take care of us. So you can't go into this expecting to get all of the messages in a detailed, orderly, outlined. That's not how it goes, okay? I hate to be the bearer of bad news. That's not how it goes. So be open, receive what you receive, and write it down and piece it together. But more than that, give yourself grace and give your ancestors grace. In everyday life, messages may come through the words of others, books, music, and what appear to be random occurrences. These messages often appear when we need them most, providing comfort, confirmation, or guidance on specific issues. It's beneficial to remain attentive and mindful, as this sensitivity will discern which experiences may carry messages from the spiritual realm. So if you hear a song repeatedly, that could be an ancestor message. If you see an animal or an insect repeatedly, might be an ancestor message. If people are telling you the same thing repeatedly, might be an ancestor message. It would be in your best interest to pay attention, write down what was received, keep your heart open, keep your ears open, keep your eyes open, because they're always talking to us. We are just not always listening. So the goal of our lives is to get ourselves into a space spiritually, culturally, to where we can receive the messages, because our people are always guiding us. We just don't know how to listen to them. Here are some tips for interpreting messages from your ancestors. Reflect and record. As I said, make sure you are reflecting and you are writing down the messages or the things that you think may be messages as you receive them. This can help you in recognizing patterns and understanding the advice or guidance being offered to you from your ancestors. Seek confirmation. If you are unsure about a message, ask for confirmation in your meditations, or if you're a praying person, in your prayers. And be open to receiving further signs. But more than that, be open to receiving signs that don't make sense to you. Be open to receiving signs that don't feel good to you, because sometimes people cut off the messages of their ancestors because they don't like what's being said. But that's whack. You can't ask for help and then get pissed when the help doesn't sound the way you thought the help would sound. You have to be open. You have to be gracious. You have to be willing to be flexible when it comes to communicating with spirits, because spirits and humans who are living don't always speak the same language, okay? So just check yourself and be mindful as you move forward, because you want to make sure you're respecting your people. Ancestor reverence as a practice of self-love. At its core, the practice of ancestor reverence is deeply intertwined with the concept of self-love. Honoring our ancestors is not merely about paying homage to those who have passed, but it is also a profound act of self-respect and self-care. By connecting with the wisdom, struggles, and achievements of our ancestors, we gain an understanding of our identity and our place in this world. This connection fosters a sense of belonging and continuity, which reinforces our self-worth and helps us appreciate our journey and potential. Furthermore, engaging in rituals that celebrate our lineage allows us to inherit spiritual strength and guidance, which nurtures our overall emotional well-being. Thus, ancestor reverence is a ritual of self-love because it enhances our sense of self through the embrace of our roots and our heritage. Okay? This is about you and your people. Ancestor veneration is deeply personal, and as for many of us, it's a new practice. So it's important to approach this practice with respect, openness, and a willingness to learn, because what you think you may know may not at all be the truth. Keep an open mind, an open heart, a journal, stay observant, and most of all, trust your intuition as you continue to cultivate and explore these connections with your people. May you find the love, connection, and community you need with your ancestors. May they guide you and love you and receive you for all your days. Thank you for joining me. And I would like to now open up the floor for questions if there are any. And if you want to shoot a sister $1, feel free to cash at me. But yes, that is it. That is the conclusion of this class. I thank you for joining me. I thank you for coming with an open heart and an open mind for this conversation. And, you know, it's funny because I accidentally uploaded the wrong slides, but we made it work anyway. So this is what it was supposed to be.
You would never know.
Yeah, girl. I completely, when I started to notice there were typos, I was like, this is the first set before I edited it. But we made it work and we're here. So thank you to Dr. Taylor for having me, and thank you to everyone for coming.
Listen, it happens. And I'm just sitting here just like, this was amazing. Like, I'm looking at the chats, you know, like people really like this. It's my first time like streaming it on Instagram and stuff. And like people were saying like, this is like knowledge and they really appreciate it. Oh, so I know that I do. I'm giving people a few more seconds to see if they can grab that for that Cash App. We definitely want to support our instructors individually. If we have any questions, now would be a really great time to bring them. Let me just double check over here. Thank you for this information. Thank you so much. I mean, I think that people they really got something great out of this. Like I feel it. Like I know I did. So
thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate all of you.
But, you know, I want to make sure that people know you can go to our YouTube page, our YouTube channel. It is SankofaSummerSchool there. If you missed any part of this and you want to go back and watch it again, please go and watch it. Share it with people. Like, we need to get this knowledge out. Same for all the classes in SankofaSummerSchool. I want to thank you so much for being here. Also, if you have any questions, if you happen to come back to it, you can leave it on our YouTube, leave it underneath, you know, in her comments, and we will have her check in, you know, every now and then and see if there's any questions that she needs to answer for us. But I'm just going to pull you off real quick because I'm just going to give my little wrap up and then we'll go from there. But thank you again so much. This was absolutely.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, wait, Nikki says she got a question.
Okay.
Hold on. I got here late, but I have a question. Well, we're going to hold on for her because she is late and she does have a question. Oh, I had a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I had a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So when you were talking about the electronic candle, right? Mm-hmm. Is it that the candle represents kind of the candle, or is it any light? Like if I had a plant light, because you know how we use the warming lights to grow your plants, and you can leave those on all night. Does that work the same?
Yes, it really. So I like to use a 7-day candle, but a lot of people are afraid of burning their homes down.
Yes,
which I respect.
A very real concern, right?
Which I respect. So since my daughters, I used to use a 7-day candle, but my daughters were like, "Mom, you're gonna burn the house down." So I started using electric candles. So essentially, you just want to make sure they have light. It is really, really bad for spirits to be trapped in darkness. Mm-hmm. So the light is what helps them travel, which is why in many Africana cultures, when our people transition, we light a candle for them because we want to offer light to their journey to help them find the way. Because when the ashe leaves the body, it still has to travel. It's a cycle. So in my tradition, the tradition of Lukumi, we believe that you don't put an ancestor on your altar for a whole year because they have to travel. And so any light that you can offer would be beneficial. It doesn't have to be a candle. You could do a salt lamp. A lot of people do, what are they called? Pink Himalayan salt lamps. They put
Okay.
them next to their ancestor altars. All of that is fine. You just want to make sure that they're not in the dark.
Okay. That sounds great.
Excellent.
Nikki, did you post your question? Because I don't see it in the chat. We'll give it a few seconds.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like what you were talking about in terms of like the table and making sure this white. Oh wait, here we go. Hold on, she's got her question.
So
for those who are new to ancestral connections and they're not sure who their ancestors are, what's a good way to connect? It's a great question.
So if you don't know who your ancestors are, you can create an altar for your ancestors. And what you would do is you would get a white unlined piece of paper and you would write, for all of my ancestors of good character who I did not name, and you'd put it in a nice little picture frame, get a cute one, and you'd place it on the ground or on your table. You'd put your glass of water, you'd put your shot of alcohol, you put your flowers or your plant, and you just start connecting that way. Just sit in front of it every day and start talking, and they will start coming to you. Because especially as Black people in America, we don't know who our people are a lot of the times because of chattel slavery. They did that on purpose. We were estranged from our families. And so doing this allows us to reconnect in a way that is healthy. And by outlining that you want to meet with people who have good character, that keeps all the busted people in your bloodline who didn't do good, that keeps them away from you. It helps to protect you. So you're only invoking the spirits of those who have good character, who have good integrity, and who live their lives well.
Thank you. We do have some more questions coming in. So this is from Instagram. If you're not sure what food to offer an ancestor, is any food okay to offer? Also, does the food need to be cooked?
Cooked food is best, but fruits are also good. And use your intuition on that one. Your intuition is your internal GPS system. It's literally your first spirit guide. So your intuition, just like a GPS, guides you to what's right. Some people call it a gut feeling, but we're Black, so I'm gonna call it exactly what it is. It's spirit. So let that spirit that lives inside of you, your first spirit, guide you. And if you feel like you want to cook plantain, cook plantain. If you feel like you want to make a ham hock, cook a ham hock. Whatever you feel guided to, do that. And yes, cooked food is best, but fruit is also excellent.
Okay, we have another question. Can our ancestors still find us if we're far from our ancestral homes? And then she says, like, my family is from South Carolina and I live far from there. Can they still find me?
Yes. Your ancestor altar works like a lighthouse. It literally turns the light on and lets spirits know there's work being done here. There's ancestral spiritual work being done here. So they can find you. Yes. It is a fear of many. I've had a lot of people ask me this in my years of teaching, but don't worry about that. The spiritual world doesn't work the way the physical world works. So they can cross things and find us. They can cross lands and find us. Just turn the light on for them and show them the way. Mm-hmm. That's how the light works for our ancestor altar.
Yeah. And then we have another question. When you're traveling or don't have access to an ancestor shrine, do you do a daily action or anything to honor your ancestors?
I travel with the mini altar.
Oh.
I have a shoebox.
Okay.
And I set it up when I go places. I'll carry a little tea light or a little electric candle. I'll set up my water. I'll get a little personal. You know how we used to get the little personals from the liquor store? You get a little personal shot from the liquor store. You put it in a little cup. It could be a little doily cup. It doesn't have to be wrapped.
Used to.
I mean,
we still do. We still do.
Some people think they don't do that anymore.
You still get a little nip.
Listen, ain't nothing wrong with it. Ain't nothing wrong with it. But you get you a little personal. You put it in the shot glass. It could be a little doily cup. You don't got it. When you're traveling, it don't got to be fancy. The intention is what matters. And then you set up your altar. You set up your cup of water, and you holler at your people. Again, we don't have to have the pomp and circumstance, though it is nice to have the razzle dazzle at home if you want to. Like my ancestor altar is behind me. That's fresh flowers because I knew if I was going to get up here and start talking and popping my thing, I was going to have to make sure my ancestor altar was up to par. Otherwise, I'm a hypocrite. So I went and got fresh flowers for my people today. So, it's whatever you want to do that makes you feel good about connecting with your people.
That is beautiful. And I don't see, let me see, any more questions over here. No, I don't see any questions here. Got some love in the comment section. This was really, really, really amazing. Thank you again, Sister Faheemah. This was wonderful. And I really appreciate you coming through for Sankofa Summer School this year. All right. Everybody, listen, we are here doing it. We have had, we're like at the halfway point. I think this is class number 7. I think we have, no, wait, 6? I think it's number 6. I've lost count because we have so many amazing classes this year. And I'm super, super excited. Please head over to SankofaSummerSchool.com and you can learn more about what it is that we're doing over here. If you want to learn about the classes that we still have remaining, you can go to SankofaSummerSchool.com/courses and you will see the classes that we have coming up. We're talking class on the diaspora wars and hip hop. We're talking about mental health. We're talking about artists, and you're going to learn about some incredible artists that you've never heard of before. We're talking about systematic racism in the Congolese people. We're talking about what it means to be Black. I mean, we have got so many more great things coming up for you all. So please go to SankofaSummerSchool.com, check out courses, and then come back to this YouTube channel. If you're here watching us on YouTube, check out the other classes that we have available. Really appreciate you all for your support. And if you are, feeling a little generous, please go to SankofaSchool.com, donate, and make a donation to help us support this alternative education initiative. We are giving Afrocentric education. We believe in the liberation of our people, but we need your support to do it. So please, feel free. We accept donations of any amount from $1 until whatever you can. We really appreciate it. So thank you so much, everyone. And we hope to see you soon. Somebody said, thank you for this session and your candidness. As a sister from Haiti, I identify with all this knowledge. I love it. This is what we're doing. It's all about the diaspora. It's all about bringing us all together. It's all about recognizing our commonality, because that is how we are going to get free. That is how we are going to fight white supremacy. And that is how we are going to win. Dr. Santi teaches us to have a victorious consciousness. And so that is with that consciousness that I started this school, and that I'm bringing in folks to give us this knowledge. So really appreciate you, the audience, students, I should say. And we'll see you on the next one, which is tomorrow.